Welcome. Today we are diving into one of the shortest, but maybe one of the most powerful poems ever written, Robert Frost's Fire and Ice. It's just 9 lines long, but it tackles this massive idea, the end of the world. And it all starts with this simple cosmic question. I mean, it's a huge question, right? How is it all going to end? We see it in movies all the time, this big, spectacular finish for our planet. But what's the real story? How would it actually happen? Well, instead of looking out at the stars or digging into science, Robert Frost looked inward. He looked at us, at humanity, and he boiled this gigantic question down into this small, perfect poem that kicks off with 2 simple, opposing forces. Right out of the gate, we've got these 2 options for how we go out: fire or ice. It's this classic elemental battle, and it really sets the stage for everything that's about to come. And here, the speaker, the narrator, he steps in with his own 2 cents. He says, based on what I've seen, what I felt of desire, I gotta side with Team Fire. He thinks that burning, passionate want is more than enough to destroy everything. Now, Frost uses this specific word, perish. It just means to die, but it has this kind of, this violent feel to it. And that's a really important word choice, because the poem is about to take this sharp turn and look at a second way to perish. And here it is. He throws out this incredible thought experiment. What if the world could end twice? This is where he flips the whole thing on its head and makes the argument so much deeper in a way you just don't see coming. And then, bam, a second force enters the ring, something just as powerful from his own experience: hate. He's saying, look, ice, this cold, calculating thing, is also a great way to destroy things. It's just as capable as fire. And the poem builds to this one last word, and it's just chillingly simple: suffice. All it means is to be enough. Just enough to get the job done. And there it is, the final line. Ice, which comes from hate, would be enough. It's such a quiet, understated, and honestly, an absolutely devastating way to end it. Okay, so you've probably figured out by now that Frost isn't literally talking about a giant meteor or a new ice age. He's using fire and ice as these huge symbols for something much, much closer to home: our own human nature. So fire, that's all our hot, burning emotions, right? Desire, greed, lust, fury, the kind of destruction that burns really bright and really fast. But on the other side, you have ice, and that represents the colder, slower, but maybe even deadlier parts of us: hate, cruelty, intolerance, and maybe the scariest one of all, just plain old indifference. But the real genius of this poem isn't just in the words themselves. It's built into its very bones, its structure. Frost was a master at this stuff, and the rhyme scheme is the perfect example of how he's building his case. Just look at how the rhymes themselves tell the story. Fire is directly connected to desire, no accident there. And then you get ice, linked with the world ending twice, and that final cold word, suffice. This pattern, it's not random. It's like he's weaving fire and ice together, showing that they're really just 2 sides of the very same destructive coin. So here's the big takeaway. Frost takes the end of the world, this giant cosmic event, and he shrinks it down to a human scale. He's telling us that the biggest threats aren't coming from outer space. They're coming from inside our own hearts. It all just boils down to 2 things, 2 very human things: the burning heat of our desires and the freezing cold of our hate. Frost is pretty clear. Either one of those, all by itself, is more than powerful enough to end us. They're the twin engines of our own self-destruction. And that leaves us with a pretty heavy question, doesn't it? Frost wrote this poem about 100 years ago, but its warning feels like it could have been written yesterday. So, when you look at the world right now, which one do you think is the greater danger? The fire of our desires burning out of control, or the slow, creeping ice of our hatred? It's definitely something to think about.